The Month of Printmaking is a biennial Colorado event celebrating the fine art of printmaking, sponsored by the Invisible Museum. I'm Terry Talty, and I want to welcome you to listen to a few of the participants of the first edition of No Print, held in 2014. So it's March 2014, and it's the first year of the Month of Printmaking for Colorado. And we're on the third floor of the McNichols building in Civic Center Park in Denver at a show called 25 Years of Open Press. We're with Geoffrey Ridge, who is a printmaker that works at Open Press. Tell us a little bit about the process, technically, that you used to make these prints that are in this show.
They're engravings. Engraving is probably one of the more archaic forms of printmaking that exists.
So it's a plate.
Right.
And you're actually carving physically into the plate.
Right. It's very direct. There's no acid involved. Just a steel tool called a burin, and you carve the lines directly into the copper.
Copper plates.
Traditionally copper. I mean, contemporary printers also carve some other metals, but I've tried some other metals as well, but I've come back to copper, and I think there's a reason the masters used it. It's got the right balance between being soft enough that you can fairly easily manipulate your tools, but also being hard enough to withstand a lot of printing. It's kind of just that right combination.
And it's pretty too.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, the finished plate polished. Actually, the finished plate inked, ready to print is when I think it's at its most beautiful.
Okay, great. And then it's traditional intaglio process where wet paper is laid over the copper plate.
Yep.
After you've inked the copper plate.
Correct.
Wiped it, wet paper, run through the press.
Right, and it's a medium also, you know, to make that distinction between relief printing and intaglio, that the lines that are engraved are where the ink is held, and that's the line that the paper is going to pick up.
Okay, great.
So it's direct in that respect.
And now these, you've got a series of fairly elaborate drawings are your works in this show. And why did you choose that group?
Well, in a sense, that group was more or less chosen, I think, would be the better way to put it. But a couple of those images, I think, while still being representational, also attempt to do what I would call a contemporary engraving, which is to say that historically engraving, because of the resistance of the materials, tends to be, a lot of the rendering is done as crosshatch.
Okay.
So you get your vertical lines, you get your horizontal lines, maybe something on an angle, but it's not very curvilinear. And I thought the real challenge there is to find a way of engraving that had a lot more curvilinear aspects to it.
And is that was that because of technological changes? You could
it's just
buy
easier.
material that would do that, or
it's just easier to cut a straight line than a curved one.
Sure, sure. So this is just a physical challenge for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also stressful for the tools. You're more likely to snap the tip off a burin cutting a deep curve than you are cutting a straight line. And if you snap the tip off your tool, then you're spending 30 minutes at the grindstone putting the tip back on it.
Okay.
So there are things that mitigate that. But but the idea of finding a contemporary idiom for a really, really classic technique.
Okay. And so these drawings show that. So 25 years of open press. You've been doing this printmaking for a quarter of a century.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And so this is your newest challenge in this method.
That's what I've been pursuing. I mean, if I line those prints up chronologically, if you could put the subject material, the image aside for a minute, and just look at the different things that are happening with how the lines are engraved, they kind of form a sequence of figuring out a different linear problem. Because, I mean, it's an entirely linear medium. That's what you think with. You don't have planes of color. You don't have large, it's lines. All you can make is lines and short lines and stipples, essentially. So everything's built up of thin lines. And it's just how do you arrange, how do you just take all those thin lines and make these other things happen?
And so if you line these up chronologically.
I could probably point out to you, it's like, okay, with this print, I was thinking about these problems.
Okay.
And this one, I was thinking about this kind of a texture because when I was doing this one, this idea came to my mind. And then I go to the next one, and it would be another set of problems that had kind of occurred to me as a consequence of doing the previous image.
And the first one in this group is?
It's the one titled Orpheus.
Okay.
It's the tree trunk that comes up to a flat slab of stone and has a bundle on top that has been interpreted as the head of Orpheus after he's been ripped apart by the Bacchantes at the end of the myth.
Okay, and the latest one in the series?
The most recent one would be, actually this is the only one that includes some etching as well. It's called A Tree in the Garden.
Okay.
And it's just a large tree image with a handful of little tiny stones around it in the grass.
You know, printmaking, you know, as you said, has a long tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you chosen to do this traditional method of making art?
Well, it's the closest thing that I can do to drawing that's not a drawing.
Okay.
And also some of it too is it's a facility issue. With pencil or a pen, there's all sorts of shortcuts you can take in your drawing.
Uh-huh.
Whereas if you have to actually think about where each line's going to go because you're going to place it rather permanently in a piece of metal, you think about it. You stop and think about each line and what it's going to do and how it fits together with all the other lines.
Good, so for carefulness, that helps. Is there a reason that you use prints that because, well, traditionally it was something to communicate to more people. You know, you could make multiples. It could be propaganda, it could be posters, it could be informative, and so more people could see it. It's a more democratic process. How does that fit into, you know, contemporary art and what you're trying to do today?
That's a good question. I actually want to add a little bit to the previous question's answer.
Oh, sure.
Part of the reason you also choose to do engraving as opposed to any other linear medium is that each little tiny line, even though you aren't looking for it, is actually raised. So the paper itself, the surface of the finished image isn't flat. Each one of those little lines has been embossed. So you could print the plate without ink and have the entire image there of just little thin, tiny raised lines. So what this means is that, like lit in a gallery where the light's oblique, every line actually has a shadow side. It's a three-dimensional thing on a very small scale existing on the surface of the paper. And that's one reason to choose it.
So it's not a digital print. It's
Exactly.
not a flat screen.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, the paper's not flat. It is actually embossed in the printmaking process.
And makes this image have more depth.
Yeah, that's one reason to choose it also.
Good, great. And so then this idea of, you know, why a print? Why something that can be reproduced?
Well, I think that probably reproducing it in this day and age becomes a little bit less of the point. At the same time, I guess I still look at that as an asset in that because I hand print all of those plates, as hard as I try to make them all the same, it's very difficult to do so. So I think you end up with a set of what you could call multiple originals. And also, some of those images are, well, because it's a laborious medium, I might spend 6 months carving one plate. So if I only made one impression off of it, I would have to charge some astronomical price
for each image.
For that image, because there's only that one that took 6 months to make. But if I can get, say, 45 really good impressions off of that plate, then I can sell each one at a much more approachable price.
Right, so it's democratic.
Yeah.
And you can communicate to more people.
Can reach a larger audience.
The image,
yeah.
Well, I mean, then that asks the question in general, why we'd want, why it's necessary to communicate images in general.
And that's a big question, especially in a world saturated with cameras on phones and Facebook and all those other wonderful things that are image laden.
That's almost too hard a question to answer.
Almost. It's pretty big. Other than, I guess, I still think that maybe what separates the artist, in a sense, from from other walks of life, is that there's, instead of having just the quick glib photographed iPhone image, they're taking the time to actually think out what the image is going to be.
And maybe for 6 months, as you said.
Yeah, and sit on it for 6 months. So there's a deliberation in it. You know,
Good.
it's like I'm bringing this to you because I think, having thought on this image all this time, there's something here more than just a quick glance.
Good. And just in general, has your experience in, do you think that printmaking has changed in the 25 years since Open Press started?
Yeah, how could it not have felt the impact of the change of electronic media in the world? I think there's a lot more printmaking being done that tries somehow to overlap with electronic media. There are new ways of doing a photo etching that didn't exist.
The polymer plates.
Yeah, the
and all
polymer plate sort of thing that's going on. All sorts of transfer processes. I think printmaking sometimes struggles as a medium because so many of its terms, so much of its vocabulary has been co-opted by the world of digital printers.
Okay. Prints.
Yeah, it's a print. Well, yes, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not a fine art print.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there hasn't been a template that's been made that the image has been pulled from. I think that would be
That's the difference.
That would be, I think, a very clear distinction.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to us today. That was really
pleasure.
informative.
Thank you.